from the crypt.
Hello, boys and ghouls. Welcome to episode 72 of Dads from the Crypt. My name is Jason, and Jody and Mondo are MIA tonight. We have two fascinating guests, Dave and Daniel from the Shiver Podcast. Welcome, guys.
Howdy.
What's going on, man?
Hey, happy New Year. We're recording the night of January 1st. Hope everyone had a good and fun and safe New Year. Hoping you guys did too as well.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. My 5-year-old decided that at like 9:30 he was done, so we made him his drink, let him shoot off his popper in the front yard, and we just watched some TV.
Nice.
That's a great night.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
I cut my whiskey with soda, and so my hangover was minimal.
There you go.
Yeah.
The things that become more important as you get older. Hangover, resistance. So
those things are for real. Once you hit like 30, I'm 35 now. I remember my first hangover after 30. I was like, can't do that shit no more.
Yeah.
You're out of commission for days. We went to Universal Studios, the one in California, Wednesday. And afterwards, I swear to God, I feel like I had a hangover. I'm like, I don't remember drinking, but my body feels.
It's the walking and the sun.
So much walking.
The sun,
crap they feed you. The sun. It wasn't hot necessarily, but yeah, it was just a lot of standing while walking.
Yeah.
But so tell me about the Shiver Podcast. I've been a guest, so thank you for having me. But tell our guests.
Go ahead, Dave.
Tell our
You've been
listeners.
doing Shiver longer.
Well, maybe time-wise for much longer, but episode-wise, not really. So Shiver was the product of an idea that I had with Jeff from the Mount Geekmore podcast and the Kickflix
Yes,
and Crimacopia podcast, all which you can find on the Geek Bro network. So we are lovers of horror movies, and so he and I decided to start the show, and it ran for a couple episodes. It was kind of always on the back burner. He was busy, I was busy. It kind of fizzled out, and then when Daniel and I became friends, he told me that he was a fan of the podcast, and it was nice to know that anyone listened to the thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, yeah, thanks, that's great. He was like, are you gonna do it again? And I was like, no. And he says, but why? Let's do it. And I said, all right, fantastic. And so Daniel kind of breathed life into the show, and we've been firing on all cylinders since. We do about an episode a week. There are certain weeks that we don't record, but generally speaking, it's every week. I think we're on episode 77 or 78.
Yeah, we're somewhere right around there.
Like 2.5, almost 3 years. So
and yeah, nice. We deep dive a horror movie every week. We try to, sometimes we keep it topical, sometimes it's something that's newer, and we try to look at a movie just from all the different angles. We got Dave as our guy who's really good about pointing out like cinematography stuff, and he can usually dig some sort of theme out of it that goes completely over my head. I'm the guy who just kind of likes just about everything and tries to find the lighter side of stuff, and our local occult specialist.
Nice. So that's really fascinating, actually, that you were a fan who got to get your way into being a part of the podcast. That's really cool.
It was wild.
And have you two met in person?
Actually, no.
Yeah.
No. And so I'm in Miami. Daniel's in Tuscaloosa, and we are looking forward to meeting at some point. I'm sure, like, in my head, there's going to be like a great soundtrack. Is this love that I'm feeling?
I totally relate, because I never met Jody or Mondo before we started the podcast. It wasn't even until a year that I met Mondo, just a few months ago. And yeah, it definitely wasn't awkward, like going to meet someone that you've never met in person,
but you know so well.
so well. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
There's
interesting.
a horror convention that goes on in Orlando once a year,
Mhm.
and unfortunately we couldn't make it this year because of scheduling. But hopefully next year, Danny and I will be there, and we can meet and have some drinks and hang out for real. He can see how short I really am.
Yes, I only hear the stories of how short you are, but you're always seated for the
Yeah.
podcast. So I don't actually know.
Yeah. Well, and I sit close to the camera, so the perspective makes me look like a real boy.
And Mondo and I had the same thing where he's a pretty short guy and I'm the tall guy, so it was interesting. But yeah, I've vowed not to go to Tennessee to visit Jody just because of all the snakes. I can't.
Tennessee's nice though.
As long as you stay out of Knoxville, roll tide.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, tonight we're talking about Cabinet of Curiosities, episode 4, The Outsider. Since Jody's not here, I have the wonderful task of doing a plot synopsis. I'm cheating by Googling it, so I'm going to read it off, and it might be a little clunky, so bear with me. Okay, here we go. Sit around Christmas. The Outside opens with a young woman named Stacy who sits in front of a television with a microwave meal. Anxious about being home alone, thinking she heard someone break into the house, she calls her police officer boyfriend. I thought it was her husband.
I thought it was husband too, but okay.
This is boyfriend, but I'm a little dubious of that.
It's the year 2023 now. You can be with a man and not marry him.
Well, no. Well, also, I feel like this takes place in the 80s.
It looked like it did. Yeah.
Let's put a pin in that one because I definitely want to get back to that idea.
All right. She tried. Keith, her boyfriend / husband, maybe tries to reassure. From the beginning, it's clear that Stacy is a very insecure woman with an overly reliant on her boyfriend's support. Things aren't any better at work either. She appears as an outsider amongst her bank teller female colleagues who spend their days gossiping and ignoring Stacy. So when she's invited to her colleague Gina's secret Santa party, Stacy is both surprised and overjoyed. Keith, on the other hand, is a bit suspicious that his quote girlfriend's workmates would invite her to anything, as they previously ignored her. Our heroine is a bit of an odd character. Her favorite hobby is taxidermy. To prepare for the party, she shoots and stuffs a duck to give to Gina as a present. While poor Stacy is out of place as she can be at the actual party, where the other women openly discuss sex-related topics. It gets even harder to watch when she gives Gina the taxidermy duck gift. The awkwardness of that scene is enough to give the viewer secondhand embarrassment on Stacy's behalf. Gina, ever the gracious host, politely thanks Stacy for the dead duck. Before getting everyone's attention back to Aloe Glow lotions that she had bought them. Aloe Glow is meant to be the best moisturizer currently on the market, and all women are excited to start using it. Of course, Stacy can't catch a break as she mimics her colleagues and applies the lotion to her face, but she immediately has some sort of allergic reaction, making her skin go red. Back at home, a defeated Stacy can't go to sleep, so she engages in some late night TV. Things get weird when the Aloe Glow infomercial comes on, and the slick television salesman starts directly addressing her through the screen. The salesman instructs Stacy to keep going, keep using the lotion despite the negative reactions it gives her. According to him, this is the only way for her to become pretty and fit in with the women at work. Desperate to denounce her outcast status and to become beautiful, Stacy listens to her TV screen and orders more Aloe Glow. The more she uses the lotion, the worse her skin redness gets. Keith is becoming increasingly worried and even offers to take her to the doctor. Stacy refuses medical help and insists that she needs change. She proceeds to accuse Keith of not understanding what she's going through because he's a man. In the couple's basement, the bottles of lotion seem to take a life of their own as the lids open by themselves. Initially scared by the phenomena, not to mention her entire body is now covered in bright red rashes, Stacy considers giving up her dream. But the Aloe Glow sales guy appears on the TV again and convinces her to keep going. He promises that she'll soon be fully transformed and achieve the body she so desires. Eventually, the Aloe Glow lotion in the basement morphs into a shiny humanoid creature. After a disturbing scene where Stacy kisses and caresses the aloe glow creature.
You say disturbing. I say sexy. I mean, we all have a thing.
To each his own. She attacks poor Keith with a scalpel. Keith tried telling her how much he loved her and how in his eyes she was always perfect. Stacy murders him and starts stuffing him like whatever taxidermy animals. After finishing Keith off, Stacy goes to the bathroom where the aloe humanoid pours itself into the bathtub. Stacy bathes in the lotion emerges as beautiful as she always wanted to be. Her skin is perfect, her teeth are white, and the lazy eye that was plaguing her is now gone. She gets dressed and puts on some makeup before leaving a now stuffed Keith on the sofa and heads for the bank. At work, all her colleagues are amazed at her transformation. Stacy looks and acts like she's one of them. She wastes no time in engaging in idle gossip, and as the episode ends with a now transformed woman laughing as she stares directly at the camera.
Yeah.
And that is our episode. All right. David, why don't you start us off? Tell us what you thought about this episode.
So I'm kind of at odds with the episode because I think thematically there's a lot of really interesting stuff going on. I love the theme of like keeping up with the Joneses. I love the theme of what I see as like viral marketing, the way that like you and I can mention I don't know, something like Ferrari, and then I'll start getting ads for Ferrari on Facebook and Instagram and stuff. So I think there was some really interesting stuff there, and that really is the meat and potatoes of the episode. So if you asked me if I liked it, I would say yes, I liked it for that reason. But I think that the plot kind of gets away from itself, and it's the non-committal attitude to whether this is supernatural or not,
right,
kind of leaves me wanting. And I don't like to be spoon-fed things. It's something that we talk about on Shiver all the time, that it's okay to leave me guessing. It's okay to have some mystery there. But what the fuck actually happens in this episode? I would like I would like to know, because I don't know, and I've got theories, and I've really enjoyed mulling this over in my mind over the past 24 hours. But man, I really wish that it made any sense. So story-wise, no good. Theme-wise, very good.
All right.
That's a really fair assessment.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel.
Yeah. So this episode was, when I was watching these in order the first time through, this episode was a refreshing break in kind of what they'd been doing with the show. You'd gone from Lot 37 and the cemetery rats and some things like that. I think the autopsy might have come right before this one. So everything was real dark and super spooky. And this was the first episode that really injected that Night Gallery Tales from the Crypt life back into it, where you occasionally got one that was, it's goofy. It's the actress Kate Micucci. Thank you. Yeah. I just always call her Gooch from Scrubs. Like that's she'll always be to me as Gooch from Scrubs. But she was like a new and fresh face that wasn't anything like they'd done until this point. So that was kind of cool. Then as it progressed, and it just kept getting weirder. Mm-hmm. And you're constantly trying to figure out, what is happening? Is this aloe glow sentient? Is it part of some sort of hive mind? And but I'm kind of the opposite side of Dave's coin, where I like that they were just like, I don't know, like figure it out for yourself, like we don't care. You saw the stuff come to life. Sure, it's sentient, whatever. I did like that a lot. I liked the way this was shot and some of the weird angles and the zooms. And there's one point where she's hunting the duck, and there's obviously like a camera at the end of the gun. Mm-hmm. And they did some really cool stuff like that I enjoyed. And for such a small cast, I think that everybody did what they needed to do. And this whole idea of skewering the beauty market, right? And this idea of how the hardest thing in the world can be to fit in, that type of stuff all kind of hits home and was done well without being super ham-fisted. So I enjoyed it, and I liked that it was so much of it was just so bizarre. And like I said, I mean, even after coming off those other 3 episodes, this is the first one where you just never know where the next turn's going to take you. Mm-hmm. Everything leading up to this one, you know, it was a linear story. This was just, man, left turn after left turn.
I had some issues with that, though.
Yeah, I really like what David said, that this is that they didn't really commit. It felt like they couldn't figure out the tone or where they wanted things to go, and they just kept kind of spinning its wheels. I think the middle, I really like the beginning, I really like the end, but the middle just gets really muddled. I think another pass with a really good editor could have really like cut things down and made it move a lot better. There's definitely a lot more levity in this episode than all the others so far.
Yeah, like that was, I think that was one of the biggest things, was coming off those others, man. It was almost a palate cleanser of an episode after everything else was so heavy.
Right.
But
yeah.
The cast does a really great job of that, because Micucci's hysterical.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of hers. I'm a big fan of her group. She does this band called Garfunkel Notes.
Yeah, really
with Ricky Linham, and they're very, very funny. So like, I think if it was a lesser actress, I probably would have really disliked this episode, but she's so captivating and so charismatic that like I really could watch her do most anything. I'd be into it. But
and you know, Martin Starr's another, you know, really funny guy. Dan Stevens is really good at being creepy.
Also just gorgeous. I mean, all cards on the table.
I mean,
Dan Stevens is a dime piece.
Yeah, whatever his name is from Downton Abbey, cousin Daniel or whatever it is.
He was Howler on Legion. And he was David Howler on Legion, and that's where I first saw him, because no shade on it, just never watched an episode of Downton Abbey. But yeah, he was David Howler in Legion, and yeah, you're right, he's good at just creep factor, man. That real bizarre monotone voice when he was talking to her through the TV, it was strange,
and it was like a really like unplaceable accent.
Yeah, it was
odd. It was like sometimes German and sometimes British and sometimes like, you know, Nor'easter. You know, it was weird and attractive, but also off-putting.
I remember there was a parody of like Apple commercials I saw once, and there's a guy who had like a vaguely European accent, and he made like a big joke about having like this like indecipherable, indistinguishable, unlocatable accent that you could. That was a big joke in there. He kind of had that kind of like, he just kept switching tones, and like almost like every line they like told him to do a different part of Europe.
I think for me, one of the big issues that I had is, despite the fact that this is one of the longer episodes in the show, I think that it needs to be feature film length, because her spiral into madness kind of comes out of nowhere. She seems very comfortable with who she is and very sure of who she is, in the same way that Keith does. And it's like one incident where she is invited to this party and tries the aloe glow, like that one thing is what sets her off. And I would love to see if that's like a straw that broke the camel's back sort of thing. Because it leads her to a place where like she murders her husband, boyfriend, possibly even like platonic lover. I don't know. It was a very weird relationship, and to me that came out of nowhere. I can understand. Go ahead.
See, the first time that she interacts with him, she calls him because she thinks someone's in the house. I thought he was just the guy at the police station. I didn't realize that was her partner. And I thought he was just like, I think he was just like, oh, it's that crazy cat lady calling, for
Right.
the
Yeah.
10th time today about, so she thinks someone's breaking their house. That's what I thought. And then he shows up at their house. I'm like, oh, okay, that's a house call. And then like, oh no, they're actually
Oh yeah, no, he's sleeping in her bed. This is in-depth police work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
From
and also
random Minnesota town, maybe. I think I heard an Oak.
yeah.
Yeah.
And also the fact that she kills him with a scalpel through the front of his temple, like that doesn't seem very plausible. So I'm like trying to figure out if she's supposed to be an unreliable narrator.
She did hack him up later.
She did. She did catch him with the axe after. That just seemed to stun him.
Yeah, okay, maybe, but it seemed like I don't know if you could actually take a scalpel and bring, like, go through your forehead like that. That seems. I was trying to figure out whether that was a fantasy sequence or what.
Well, and that was another issue that I had is there was no distinguishable like cinematography or like camera filter or anything that was done when she was in this like dream state, because the side effects that are mentioned in the commercial, one of them is hallucinations.
Yeah.
And so like, what is hallucination? What is she really seeing? I have to imagine that this stuff isn't really coming to life, and that's her hallucination that she's making out with this like really sexy goop monster.
Yeah, like I've got I don't know. I'm gonna have a weird search history after this one now because there's something was awakened inside of me when she made out with the goop monster. That was strange.
I was getting notes of maybe Sinead O'Connor. I didn't even realize I was attracted to Sinead O'Connor until right now.
So I mean, I was really half expecting her partner to show up at the bank, like perfectly fine, and be like, "Honey, where'd you go?" And then like it flashes, and she's still like covered in like boils and red stuff. Like I really thought all that was going to be in her head.
Yeah, because it raises an interesting point that everybody else is acknowledging that she's beautiful now and she's finally come out. And so you kept waiting for the bubble to burst on that, right? You kept waiting to find out that she's just gone crazy now, because they do make that, there is that scene where they mention the side effects. And so I kind of did the same thing, that really weird end scene where she's just making faces and she's kind of laughing and then doing her giant anime eyes, and then she laughs again. And I kept waiting for that to kind of fade off and to see that she still looked the same and was now just completely insane. So to think that, I guess the aloe glow worked. I kind of started to view it as some sort of like hive mind parasite that's taking these women over.
I think so. But to me, it's a little more like literary than that. I think it's this idea that there's an image of what perfection is. There's an image of what beauty is. There's an image of what you should be, which I guess in modern day is 1982 Farrah Fawcett, right? Because like that's the look that they all had. They looked like they had just jumped off the page of like Vanity Fair in 1982. Which I'm here for. I love me some feathered hair and leg warmers. Like I'm fucking here for it. But to do that, like you kind of have to, like, if you're going to become one of these women, like every single one of the bank tellers sounded exactly the same. They looked exactly the same. Their idea of beauty and what they speak about and what is cool and what is acceptable was exactly the same for all of them. So you have to kill that thing that you are to become the thing that you will be. So like, if you're thinking about it thematically, it's not that she was physically allergic to the aloe glow. It's that who she was dying. And maybe Keith recognizes this and says, I want the woman that I fell in love with. I don't recognize you anymore. And it's not that your skin is red, but it's that on the inside you're raw, you're different. There's something that's been changed about you. And that's why she's so adamant about the fact that like there's a transformation that's happening. I need you to support me. I need you to be here. But he realizes that this isn't her. And I think those faces that she makes in the end, it's like you can lie to yourself and you can lie to the people around you. I think about that line from The Great Gatsby where George looks at Myrtle and he says, but you can't lie to God. And he's pointing at the eyes on that giant billboard, right? And it's like you can't really ever truly change who you are unless you change on the inside. And truly, you can say that you've stopped doing something, but if you continue to do something, all you're doing is lying about it. And so like those glimpses of who she was, the fact that she hated those people. Keith says at one point, he says, but you hate those women. And she's, no, I don't hate them. I think that she's realizing, oh my God, I've killed my husband. I've killed, and maybe she didn't actually kill him. Maybe she just killed the relationship. Right. But there's all this stuff that's like a maybe, if, who knows what if, because there's really no establishment of what is actually happening. And that's my biggest problem here. The story starts to fall apart when you think about the themes that they're pushing, which are great themes, and they want you to think about it. And that's my problem with this. There are awesome things that when you think about them, they don't make any sense, but they don't want you to think about it. Just fucking watch shit blow up and watch people get murdered and have a great time. And I'm here for it, right? Show me a tit here, show me a stabbing there, and I'm cool. I'm in. But if you want me to start thinking about shit, I'm going to think about it.
Yeah, if you're going to dive into that level of heavy themes, you kind of have to back it up a little bit. I was kind of waiting for like a Silver Shamrock kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where like this would be like kind of like a conspiracy and like a kind of a consumerism plot to get women to buy these products, and she was being like brainwashed into buying it, and then they had like some like technology that like allowed the TV or whatever to tap into her specifically, or do something specifically, like the goo would like make her susceptible to some TV wave, or I was waiting for some like explanation, and we don't need one, but I feel like if you're going to go that deep into it, you have to give us a little bit more. It seemed like they didn't quite understand it, or at least they were just being like overly obtuse.
Yeah, this one kind of comes off like those movies that we do occasionally, where when you stand back and look at the whole thing, you've got this great Monet of an idea, and then when you get close, it gets real blurry and it gets foggy, and you can tell that somebody had an idea here, and they kind of storyboarded it out, and they couldn't figure out exactly how they were going to fine tune everything, right? Like the knobs that were going to take this and fix it horizontally and vertically, they never quite hit the right spot.
Yeah.
Those aren't lilies, those are strokes. It's not a Monet, it's a Monod.
There you go. I found a lot of interesting and maybe visual references. The goo person kind of remind me of Annihilation. The scene where Natalie Portman goes in the lighthouse and there's like a shiny that like they do like almost a dance together.
Yeah,
so I thought that was a nod to that. I got
hints of the T-1000, but maybe that's just because I jerk off to Terminator every night.
There you go. The ending kind of reminded me a bit of the Pearl ending, which I don't think time-wise they would have had a chance to see that, but I think it's just a coincidence of her just kind of staring maniacally into the camera kind of thing.
Yeah, the other thing, and we had hinted on this during the synopsis, is I can't figure out when this is supposed to take place, and I don't know if that was done on purpose to be confusing and disorienting or what, because there's two main things that I noticed. Everything, it seems like this is in the 80s, the way the house is, the way the clothes are, the way that they're all acting, all of that seems straight out of the 80s. But then she's got a flat screen TV in her home. She has an LCD TV in her home. And also at the very end, the one super annoying chick, the one who hosted the party, she's on a very modern cell phone, like a flip phone, but not even like an old clamshell, like one of the new cell phones that flips. And so
there's also a computer monitor in the bank. that someone is working on. So there's a lot of things that are like anachronistic to the 80s.
So
Yeah.
I mean, if we wanted to pull on that thread, it could be that like they're living in a modern time, but their mindset is stuck in the past.
Okay.
They're living with old values in the modern world. Maybe that's giving it too much credit, or maybe they're just like, we just want to look interesting.
Right, yeah, because it's like, okay, so it's a late night infomercial. Yeah, cool. Those were a big deal. All right, yeah, the tarot card network and all of that stuff. This is
waiting
all
for Miss Cleo to pop out.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Oh, that's the really funny thing. There's a new documentary just came out this week about Miss Cleo, and I just watched it.
Spectacular. I was so ready for that movie to just be 90 minutes of Cleo getting dunked on.
Mm-hmm.
And
no, it was fascinating.
It ended up being incredible, and there's a really great conversation to be had from that movie about identity as it relates to spirituality and some things like that, because it's easy to be, oh, she's not from Jamaica, so that the accent's fake and all that, but there's a really good conversation regarding identity to be had after watching that movie. I was blown away by Call Me Now. It was so good.
Well, I had probably the best moments of my marriage. My wife says, "Wait a second, you mean those calls aren't real?" It took her like at least half an hour to like completely wrap her head around the facts.
I just loved the idea that like that was the whole thing. It was Call Me Now, but it was just you're just calling some college kid who's broke. And there's the one guy who's like, I would do female voices, but I was also chain smoking while I did it, so it got tougher.
Right. They're just like reading off like a script.
Yeah. That was a whole fascinating thing, that Call Me Now documentary. But like I said, that whole thing with those random pieces of technology, like I have enough confidence in Guillermo del Toro to think that these weren't things that just accidentally happened. And so that threw me for a loop. The first time through, I noticed the TV immediately. It was today that I noticed the cell phone when I rewatched. But so I can maybe buy into like the small town thing. Like they just kind of stayed in that mindset. Like that does give a little credence to it. So I'm willing to accept that.
At least that's just like playing Monday morning quarterback. Now we do want to point out that this was directed by Anna Lily Amirpour, who did A Girl Walks Home at Night, or Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. Fantastic movie.
I've not seen that one.
But yeah, this is, again, I really like the Autopsy, the one that we did last week.
Right.
This one, I feel like if they cut out 10 minutes and just tighten things up, either they could fix the issues or they would just tighten up the pace so we wouldn't notice them as much. One or the other has to happen.
I love that. I love that Dave's suggestion is like, make this a feature-length film, and you're like, cut it down to 30 minutes. And we're like, something's got to give. You just picked the wrong time slot at an hour.
It's like 40,
because
but
I do think that it sits in like this really weird place where like you can either choose to develop these themes and make them part of your story, or like not focus on them so much. Right. So I do get that, because if you cut down how important the thematic elements are, then I don't really think about it that much, and then it becomes like fun to watch television. And you can think about things that are fun to watch, but typically you don't have to, you don't need to. It's not integral to your experience. Like I can watch Commando and turn my brain off, and it's fantastic. It's a great time. But if I want to, I can also kind of sit there and think about it a little bit and be like, okay, yeah, there's maybe something to this movie. But I'm not really going to do that with a movie that takes itself a little bit more seriously. And I feel like this attempted to take itself seriously without really having a grasp of what it was.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if I was gonna make this a movie, there would be like a whole sequence where Keith goes on the investigation, and they both break into the Allegro factory to find out the conspiracy behind it all. Again, like Silver Shamrock style.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah,
Bring Tom
I can
Atkins
dig
in
that.
too. He's still around.
Yeah, Tom Atkins would be. Oh my God, Tom Atkins could be the CEO of Alaglow.
Oh, that's
See?
There you go.
fantastic.
And then the
Call
Dan
us,
Stevens
cabinet.
character would turn out to be like an AI generated thing.
Oh, that's just like, and that's how it's able to talk to her directly. Because once she
Mhm.
puts the glow on, whatever it is that's creating that, it's like what Dave was talking about with the your phone's always listening to you.
Yeah, exactly.
It knows she's put it on, so now it's talking to her directly because it's not actually an actor. It's just it's programmed to make you see what you want to see. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
But alas, we can all play armchair director, writer, but
Yeah.
we have to take it on its own merits.
I mean, it
All
looks
right.
beautiful. It was beautifully shot.
It really
I mean,
was.
again, I think on every level except for the writing and the editing, I think this is a really good episode. The acting is really good. I love all the actors and actresses in this. I think it's well directed as far as what they're doing. But I think there's some fundamental flaws in the story itself.
And Martin
Or at least-
Starr can make movies and television for the rest of his life, and he will just always be one of the nerds who is discussing the mathematics and science of jerking off an entire auditorium in one day. To me, in Silicon Valley,
which is every time.
which is like hands down one of the best like scenes in television ever, because it's just like the math and everything involved. And so every time I see him, I'm like, oh yeah, it's Martin Starr. I wonder what he's doing the math. Okay.
All right. Well, let's move to our ranking or rating. We do 0 to 5. You do half points. Obviously, 0 being the worst, 5 being the best. Where do you guys put this episode? Daniel, we'll start with you.
So I've been kind of trying to figure it out, and you guys have pointed out a couple things here. It's interesting when we do Shiver. I always kind of feel like I never know what I'm gonna rate something until we get to that point. So, and that's so I approach this that same way. And some of the things that you guys are saying about the writing do kind of stick with me, stick in my craw a little bit more now. It was very pretty. I enjoyed it. It was goofy. Like I said, it was a nice refresher. But I mean, even just stacked up against the rest of that Cabinet of Curiosities catalog, it is a weak episode. So I don't want to be too harsh on it because I do enjoy it. So I'm gonna go 3.5. I think I think it's a good one. But I think that there is too much left up in the air that like I said, now when you guys are kind of pointing it out like that, I do realize it bothered me more than I realized. So I was kind of ready to go 4, but I'm going to knock it a little bit because it is pretty nonsensical.
All right, David.
Everything that Daniel said, except I'm giving it a 3. You take me out for dinner, I expect something good. All right. Don't take me to White Castle and tell me that it's fucking gourmet. All right. Guillermo del Toro, I think he pulled the wool over our eyes. But there's a lot to like, and I want to give credit where credit is due. Great cast. I think there's some really good directing here. Like you said, Jason, I think that this boils down to writing and editing.
Yeah. I'm going with a 3 as well. You could watch a lot worse. And sometimes you dig into something that you like, but you still find some blemishes in. That doesn't mean you're discounting it or you're like, oh, I'm regretting I watched this. No, I'm happy I watched it. I'm
it's
happy.
Like Friday the 13th Part 5. Is it good? No. Am I glad I watched it again? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like they just need like 1 or 2 more passes on the script to really get it to where they want it, or I don't know. But you can do a lot worse.
Absolutely.
Lot worse. All right. Moving on to our song of the day. I came up with this pretty quickly on my own, but as we're wrapping up the year, we're looking at all of our favorite TV and movie things, and probably I think my favorite TV show this year might be the Wednesday Addams TV show. And I don't know if you guys
that was
talk
really
about
good.
It was really good. Yeah,
And
I
I
did
think
like that a lot.
Part of it was just watching it with my daughter, who's 8, and she's like getting into spooky stuff, and she like she's all about, she hasn't gone like full goth or anything, but she's like totally embracing that. So like I bought her like this black leather purse with like kind of a cartoonish Bride of Frankenstein on
awesome.
it. And she's like holding a bat, and she hasn't put it down. That just warms my heart a lot.
Yeah.
So the song that I think I'm pairing with this episode is Goo Goo Muck by the Cramps.
Oh God, I love the Cramps.
Which is the song that they played when one of the M's does the viral dance scene.
What a great scene.
Mhm.
And that, I mean, Jenna Ortega is brilliant.
Yeah.
She's fantastic.
She won this year, basically.
Yeah. But speaking of songs, one thing that we just to look back on the outside real quick, that You Sexy Thing cover by Zella Day.
Oh yeah.
That's in that final scene is really good as far as songs too. But yeah, no, I'm never gonna argue with the Cramps being considered the song of anything, because I do. Human Fly, the Cramps, just genius. Love that. Love their music.
And there's just so much goo and muck in this episode. So once I thought of that, I'm like, okay, we're gonna go hard on that. All right, Jody's not here for the news. I didn't prepare anything for that. But I was gonna ask you guys if you had any movies that you're looking forward to, or what movies are you looking forward to the most this upcoming year. We already talked about that last week, but I want to get your guys' take.
So as far as upcoming, like I've reached this point where I try to kind of avoid a lot of stuff that's coming, like seeing stuff that's coming out, because I everything is so spoiler heavy these days. But I'm, we love spooky stuff, but we're also both massive nerds. I'm super excited about Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and Quantum Mania. I think that they both look like they're going to be really good. There is, however, a movie that I just caught a trailer for the other day, and I cannot think of the name of it. It's something like and the Zodiac Knight or something like that. It looks like some sort of kung fu movie meets like Greek mythology. It looks like a Shaolin Percy Jackson movie, if that makes any sense.
Interesting.
And I cannot. Oh man, I wish I had thought a lot. You go ahead, Dave. Tell what you're, and I'll see if I can find anything about it.
Kind of like Daniel, I don't really keep up with what is coming out too much. I'm always going to be down with whatever's coming out in like the geeky world. So Marvel, Star Wars, though, I hate to be one of those guys, but I'm not really a big fan of the stuff that has come out in theaters for the new Star Wars stuff, with the exception of Rogue One.
Have you seen Andor?
I have not seen it yet, but I have liked all the TV shows.
That will cure whatever.
I'm about halfway through. I'm about halfway through right now, and it really is curing a lot of Star Wars ills.
And it gets better. The first third of it, I was like, okay on. I just kept pushing through because I kept hearing people say it gets better. But yeah, by halfway through, you're like, okay, I'm into this.
There's Indiana Jones 5. I don't think I've been that excited for a movie since Indiana Jones 4.
That's not a good sign.
Well, it's just excited for it, not excited after it.
I know. That might be one of the biggest letdowns I've ever had.
I don't know, man. I would love to do an episode on that movie, and I mean, I don't want to tell you why you're wrong, but tell you why you're wrong. I am really excited for the Winnie the Pooh slasher that's coming out.
Blood and Honey.
It looks terrible in the best ways possible. Yes. There's a kind of Child's Play knockoff coming out called Megan that looks interesting.
That's next week.
Yes, Megan is out next week, and it looks it looks so creepy. Like just fully committing to that uncanny valley thing is sick.
Again, if they commit fully to that, it could be something really spectacular, like just off the wall. If they're wishy-washy about going there, then we'll see.
Cocaine Bear looks absolutely bonkers.
I really want to see that. That's really high on my list.
And dude, it looks like they're finally going to get a Dungeons and Dragons movie done right.
Yeah, that looks really promising.
It does look promising. And as a long time D&D player, I'm really excited to see that. And then
The-
like real movies, I guess, if you want to call it like real movies, Babylon looks really good.
Yeah.
So what about like the golden age of Hollywood?
Oh yeah. Night to the Zodiac is the movie that I was talking about. It's apparently based on an anime. I don't know, but the other night, like me and my brother were just like watching random trailers and it popped up. There's also some movie coming out where Adam Driver is a space marine fighting dinosaurs.
Yeah, that looked cool.
Yes. Yeah, I'm here for it.
You lost me at Adam Driver. Everything else sounds
Okay.
great,
Well,
but
yeah.
that guy can go fuck himself.
I'm sure he has.
I'm sure he has. If anyone can. If anyone can. Oh, the Nicolas Cage Dracula movie.
Renfield.
Renfield. Yeah, I gotta see that.
All right. And then we're going to move to our final section, the dad advice. You're both fathers. So what parenting advice would you share for our listeners?
Oh, right. So
So you're both educators, so that's even better.
Yeah. So right now, one of my biggest current hurdles is the fact that my oldest is going to be 12 this week, and so if your kids haven't gotten there yet, and you know it's getting close, my biggest advice right now would be like, you cannot take it personally that just they seem to not like you or anything you do. Like it's really tough for me. Like, probably one of my biggest flaws as a person is I just take it really personally when people don't like me. And so for it to be my own daughter right now, who just, and she's very sweet. She's never ugly about it or anything, but like, I can't even put on just like a normal outfit that I would wear. Everything I do is embarrassing. And I get it. Like I said, she's going to be 12. So if your kids are about to hit that tween era, just try not to take any of it personally, because like I said, she is very sweet. She always reminds me like, oh, I love you, but stop and don't talk to me and leave me alone in my room and don't even look in my friend's direction.
Yeah, that's my daughter at age 6. I think it's when she started doing that. I think that was the age when and she's 8 now, but I think that was the first age she said, "You ruined my life."
Yeah, exactly. That's where she is now. So yeah, my biggest advice would be like, just ride it out. And so I just torture her with it now. I'm like, you know what? If I'm not going to take this personally, I like earlier today, she video chats with her friends and stuff all the time. I just like go up in her room and lay down on her bed and like try just to insert myself in the conversation. I'm like, well, if I'm going to embarrass you anyway, I'm going to have some fun with it.
Right.
That's amazing.
So what are we talking about, girls?
Exactly. That's exactly. She's having a spend the night birthday party next week, and it's like, and I'm like, so I'm just supposed to like stay in the room because probably I'm not going to. So,
what day is her birthday?
The 4th.
Oh, okay,
so
I'm the 6th.
Wednesday. Oh, okay, yes, she's the 4th. And she'll be 12. But she's been 6 going on 16 for a while now. So.
What about you, David? What advice do you have?
Share the things that you love with your kids. My oldest is 8, and during the pandemic, I stopped trying to shelter him from some of the stuff that I really enjoy but thought was inappropriate for him. So, obviously you have to use your discretion, but like, he is now a huge fan of Doom. We sit down and play Doom together, and he is no more violent than he was before. Not that he's a violent kid at all. So, just saying, it's not going to ruin your kids. He absolutely loves Army of Darkness.
Cool.
Ash Williams is one of his favorite horror characters. He watches most of the movies that we do on Shiver with me, and it's given us a way to bond. He really loves zombies. He loves vampires, and I try to share again within reason. I'm not going to tell him about all the shit I did in college anytime soon, but within reason, share the things that you love with your kids, because it's it's going to, number one, I think help them trust you more, and it's going to be a way to like really bond with them. If the only thing you bond with your kid over is the shit that they're interested in, your relationship is very topical. So open up, put on a James Bond movie and talk about why cars and explosions are cool. Tell them, hey, we're feminists now, so that's not so cool. But spying and Cold War, you can't go wrong. So and same with sons as with daughters. You want your daughters to be badass, so show them He-Man. Show them Thundercats and all that good stuff, and you'll find that you can count one more person in your group of closest friends, because I really do think of Link as one of my best friends. He and I hang out more than anyone else in my life, so might as well really enjoy the time that I spend with him.
That's awesome. And you said his name is Link. Is that a Zelda reference?
Yeah, so his name's actually Lincoln, because if I had told my wife Link, she would have known what I was doing.
That's amazing. I want to steal that.
The Okie Doker.
Yeah, so everyone calls him Link, though.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And then also, since this is coming out the first Sunday or whatever day in January, where basically everyone's either back in school or about to go back to school. Since you're both teachers, what advice would you give to parents whose kids are about to go back to school after a long break?
So,
what do you as teachers wish parents would know?
Right. Well, with then you're gonna get two.
I'm gonna get myself fired here, man.
Exactly. You're gonna get two opposite ends of the spectrum here. I teach early childhood, and Dave teaches high school. But for me, it's just have patience with some of those first things when we come back. As kids that I teach early childhood special ed, and it's gonna be rough when we get back, because they're going to be completely off routine. I mean, they haven't done what we do for 2.5 weeks. Mm-hmm. So I will say the same thing that I always say to parents at the beginning of the year when their kids are just starting school for the same thing for the beginning. And I'll say, if I had to give some advice to parents, is when your kids go back to school after a long break, they're not going to be happy to be there. So if you only believe a third of what they say about their teacher will only believe a third of what they say about you. That's pretty solid advice, especially for beginning of the year and after a long break, when kids really don't want to be there because they have forgotten what it was like to have to go to school.
So I'm coming from a very different world. It's high school. The students I teach are dual enrollment students. So these are generally pretty bright kids, pretty hardworking kids. I don't have to deal with parents an awful lot. And for that, I'm grateful, because if I can go into work, teach every day, and go home, I'd have the most perfect job in the world. But once I have to start dealing with you, the parent, we're
the worst.
Yeah, that's so some days I go home and I drink because I want to, and then some days I go home and I drink because I have to. And those days where I go home and I drink because I have to, it's always your fault, the parent. All right, and I'm pointing my finger at you. No student has ever made me come home and say, fuck, I really need some whiskey, but a parent has. All right. So remember, parents, that what your kids tell you can be true, it can be partially true, but it's always going to be to get out of trouble.
There we go.
And if you come at me with some cockamamie story, I have receipts. And so does every other teacher. Every one of your kids' teachers has receipts, because we've been taught from the very moment that we step into the classroom to the moment that we die, you have to document everything. Document. Yep. And it's CYA. It's because it's our ass that's on the line. In the same way that any doctor is going to document anything that happens when you go into their office, any lawyer is going to do the same thing. A teacher is going to do exactly the same thing. We are better bookkeepers than I don't know. Think of someone who's traditionally a good bookkeeper. So if you think,
I feel like that could have got real bad real fast.
if you think that you're going to come into my classroom in some meeting and you're going to change something that you think has happened, it's not going to change. If I'm telling you that your son is wrong, it's because your son's wrong. If I'm telling you that he hasn't turned in a single assignment all semester, it's because he hasn't turned in a single assignment all semester. Please stop pretending like you know how to check his grades, because you clearly don't. All right. And at the beginning of the school year, stop telling me this. Do not come into my classroom and say, I expect great things because Timmy has never gotten anything less than an A in English. And clearly he went to fucking clown school. Timmy don't know how to write. Okay. So don't get on my ass, because it's not my fault that your kid doesn't know how to write. Now, it will be if he leaves my class not knowing how to write. But there you go. I got some more, but I'm not going to.
All right. Bring the fire. I like it. All right. Well, I think that wraps things up for tonight. Guys, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so if you head to shiverpod.com, you will find links to all of our social media. We are on everything at ShiverPod. We're on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Instagram is probably our most popular social media platforms where we do our most interacting with people. It's where we met you and how we've gotten to do each other's shows. So follow us on at ShiverPod and all of those places. Also, you can catch us doing our show Wednesdays, 9-8 Central. Dave's Eastern, I'm Central. We are off. Well, actually, by the time this comes out, we will be starting a brand new trilogy. Follow us on our Instagram. We're going to be announcing what that is soon. But we've got some really fun stuff. We try to cover a little bit of everything, and we always love, a suggestion or an idea of some things to do. We did Summer Fan Fest last summer and got some really wild stuff we'd never seen before. It's where Dave and I saw Stephen King's Silver Bullet for the first time. We finally, and that one was a takeaway great one. So follow us on social media and watch us. We broadcast live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter every Wednesday at 9-8 Central.
That's awesome. All right, guys. We appreciate everyone for listening. We really appreciate if you would give us a rating or review on iTunes or rating on Spotify. Check out our Patreon for bonus content. Also, check out YouTube for videos of these episodes. And with that, we thank you for listening to Dads from the Crypt. Good night.
Follow Dads from the Crypt on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or I will follow you to the grave. No, seriously, you really should watch. But be careful what you ask for. You may get it.